Hello everybody, and a happy rainy Wednesday afternoon to you. I hope you guys are doing well. This is my last Wednesday pre-recorded devotional with you guys. Some of you might be like, yay, she won't show up on my feed anymore. But others of you hopefully are a little upset by that. I mean, I hope I've been helping you guys out a little. But next week is August, and that for me kicks up my youth programming. We're still doing it online, folks, but that does not change the fact that we're going to be busy. I am starting a new Bible study series for my youth next week on August 5th. Every first Wednesday of the month from 6 to 7, we'll do a new Bible study on the book of Daniel, Living a Christian Life in a Hostile World. That is our new Bible study. And I am not planning on doing any pre-recorded devotionals with that. If you would like me to, please leave it in the comments that you would like me to, and I will continue. But if I don't hear anything, I'm not going to be doing that. So this will be our last Wednesday devotional together on the Gospel of Matthew. Today, I figured we would skip ahead. We have been working on the Gospel of Matthew for a while, and we got to chapter 10, because there's just so much awesome stuff in here. I mean, come on. But so we're skipping to the end of the book. The Gospel of Matthew has 28 chapters. We are skipping all the way to chapter 27, so almost to the end, to verse 38 through 44. I'm going to read this little section, and then I will explain why I chose it. Here we go. Then 2 bandits were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by blasphemed him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." In the same way, the chief priests also, along with the scribes and elders, were mocking him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he wants to. For he said, 'I am God's Son.'" The bandits who were crucified with him also taunted him in the same way. All right. So the reason I chose this is, it's like threefold. To begin, we are all suffering a great change in our mental health in the past couple of months. Mentally, as well as physically, but mentally we are all in a different place than when we were, say, in April or in February or, pick a date before the pandemic. You get it. We are torn down and worn down and exhausted from this change. Whether or not you want to admit it, this change has been something that you have had to deal with mentally and physically, and it is exhausting. And now we have come to a point where our community started out as a loving, supporting community where we had each other's backs and we were supporting each other through this pandemic. With signs of thank you, health workers and all this stuff. Now we are at a point where I see more hate and judgment coming out. And that's really tough, especially for our youth right now who rely very heavily on social media. I think we all do, but our youth, our teens especially, rely really heavily on social media anyway. And right now, even more so because we don't have a lot to do. And to have people coming at you with hate or judgment or anger can obviously only hurt us even more right now, and we don't really need that. We are already suffering as a people, and I just see so much of this anger because of differing opinions and different beliefs. These things are just coming out, and I'm not exactly where that's coming from. I think a lot of it has to do with us being quarantined and having a lot of time to think. It also absolutely has to do with the protests going on. And a lot of that is very positive, I will say. I see a lot of beauty coming out of this. But there is just a lot of random weird hate going on right now. And not even with the protests, just random things that I've been seeing. So I chose this section because I wanted us to see Jesus' response. I can say God, Jesus, same thing. Jesus Christ's response in this section here. So let's put ourselves in Jesus' shoes, which is really hard to do. Obviously, but we're going to try. Here Jesus is being crucified because he is a threat to authority figures. He is a threat to the Roman Empire because he has people following him and questioning the authority of Rome, because Rome is a very oppressive place that helps the rich and destroys the poor in this moment. And Jesus is very much against that. And so Jesus has been revealed as a bandit, as a criminal, because he is fighting against what the Roman Empire believes in. He is fighting for God's empire. So it's Roman Empire versus God's empire. That doesn't work for the Roman Empire. So Jesus here is being crucified for that reason. He is being hated on because of his threat to authority. And because he has been called the King of the Jews. That whole reason. So here he is being crucified. And not only now, in this moment, is he dealing with the mental and physical exhaustion from the worst possible way you could be murdered. I mean, that crucifixion was absolutely brutal. And the Roman Empire, the Romans loved it. They loved crucifying people. And it's gross and it was awful. Jesus here is not only suffering from that, but now you've got these random dudes and dudettes and the scribes and the elders walking past him and mocking him and making fun of him. And they say, he saved others, he cannot save himself. He's the King of Israel, let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God, let God deliver him now if he wants to, for he said, I am God's son. I cannot imagine how hard it must have been for Jesus to keep his mouth shut. Jesus, let's remember, was both fully human and fully divine. The fully human part of Jesus in this moment, it must have been excruciating because Jesus knows what he knows, right? He knows he is the Messiah. He knows he is the Son of God. He knows God is present within him. He knows all of this stuff and these people don't. And it's like, oh, it must have been so hard for him to keep his mouth shut. I just really think about it for a second. Like when somebody comes at you, like what I'm talking about with social media and, they come at you and you're right. But you know that if you say anything, it's just going to make things worse. Multiply that times 400 billion. And maybe we have an idea of what Jesus's fully human mind was going through at this moment. It just, oh my gosh, it would have, I don't even know. Now we can remember he was absolutely exhausted from the physical stuff that his body was going through. So maybe his mind was not completely there. But I think he was aware, that would be hard to miss. You're hanging up there and these people walking by and saying these things, that's hard to not hear and let it sink in, even if you don't want it to. So the reason I chose this was to show you guys, it is often said that Jesus knows our struggle. Jesus went through what we went through, what we go through. Jesus knows. Jesus sympathizes with us. Jesus has compassion with us. He is there with us in everything. And a lot of people sometimes don't think about that or remember that, or sometimes don't even believe that. This is a moment where we can see a connection between us as Christians and what we're facing right now as human beings. I mean, this stuff that I'm seeing on social media is not always about Christianity. Some of it is. But what I'm saying is that this section here shows us there is a connection between Jesus and what he's going through, and then us and what we're going through. So Jesus really did experience that moment when he knew he was right, or he knew his choice or his answer was better, or he knew something that someone else didn't, but he chose not to say anything, or he couldn't say anything in that moment because it wasn't the right moment. I hope I'm explaining that clearly enough. Jesus did experience what we experience as human beings. Jesus came to earth as a human representative of God and experienced the human experience with us, including death. Jesus experiences the human experience of death. But here, he is experiencing that human experience of debate. And I say that because I really love to do that. I love to get into theological or religious or ethical or, moral conversations with people and really stand up for what I believe in. I have a lot of passion for that. But here, Jesus speaks so much by not saying anything. Jesus takes this awfulness, this blaspheming from these people. He takes it because he has to, because that is the mission of God. That is what God wanted. he had to go through this crucifixion, and he had to suffer through that, and he had to die in this particular way because it had to be done that way. That's a whole other Bible study for you guys. Really quickly, I'll dive into that. Evil does not belong to God. It just doesn't. Only good, pure awesomeness belongs to God. So sin has to be paid for because God is a just God. There's no other way around it. You have to pay for something that does not belong to you. And God does not own evilness, so God couldn't just be like, hey, gone, everything's fine. That's not how it works. That is the whole point of, Jesus coming down and paying for our sins. Anyway, that's a whole nother spiel. If you want me to get into that, leave it in the comments and I'll contact you. But so this section just really spoke to me as I was looking through the last couple chapters of Matthew and what we're facing today in the community. Sometimes it's better to just be silent. Sometimes it's better to receive what people are saying and just listen and just try to understand their side of things and try to understand what they're going through and try to rise above that little voice in your head like, oh, I want to tell them, they're wrong and blah, blah, blah. Like, rise above that. I know that's there. I know. So that's why I chose this section, was really to help us remember that Jesus really did go through, experience human emotions and things that we experience. And this is an example of that. Just to kind of highlight what's going on with social media now and all this hate of like, you should listen to this news and not that news, and you're dumb if you listen to that news and blah, blah, blah. It's just better sometimes to be quiet and to take that road. Just a little piece of advice from me, and looking at the story of Christ and how incredibly hard that must have been for him. Not just even the crucifixion part, but everything else that was added into it. It was awful. It just was awful. I hope that this maybe brought you guys a little bit of comfort. I know that seems weird and might sound odd, but it might be comforting to just be like, you know what? I don't have to take on that fight. I don't need to do the whole, you're putting your kids back in school, like, how dare you? Or you're putting your kids back online, how dare you? Like, it's none of my business. I don't need to get involved in that. Maybe that's a comforting thing for you guys, to learn that Jesus was silent sometimes. Like, we can be silent sometimes. So just let it go. And maybe be silent. And with all of these controversies and everything going on social media, just remember that if Jesus could hold his tongue with such hate, and he knew he was so incredibly right in the moment, I mean, strive to be like him. Even if you're not right, you might not be right. I don't know. But if you think you are, it still applies. Anyway, this again was my last Wednesday devotional with you guys, unless you say otherwise. So please, if you have enjoyed these, if you've actually been watching, I don't really know. Please comment and let me know to continue this on for another month or two, or however long you want. I'm willing to do it, but again, I will be starting to focus more on my youth group in August as we start coming back with online Sunday school and Bible study and our online super fun events. If you want to know about that stuff, check out holyinnocence.org, the youth page. We also have a ton of stuff for children. Check out the children's page as well. We're going to do some really cool stuff with this online stuff for fall. So check us out if y'all are looking for anything for your youth or your kids to do, to stay engaged in the church, which is really important right now. Like, come on, super important. Should be priority number one over school, to be honest. I know I'm biased because I'm a children and youth director, but church should absolutely be number one and school should be second. Just saying, especially right now. And that is not to open up for debate. We're not debating that. I did not mean to start anything with that. All right, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you guys have enjoyed this Gospel of Matthew Bible study that I've been doing. It is such a cool book. Please let me know if you want any of my PowerPoints or notes or anything. I will email it to you. No problem. Just keep me posted. Talk to you guys soon, and thank you so, so much for tuning in with me every Wednesday and watching these. I really appreciate it. Bye, guys.